Hi, I'm Whitney Wiley, and thank you for joining me for Habit Talks. It is the place where we get together to talk about habits that help you make changes in all areas of your life. And today we're going to be talking about health. And I have with me health guru and expert, Cheryl Meyer. How are you doing, Cheryl?
I'm great, Whitney. Thanks for having me.
I am so honored to have you. I had the pleasure of interviewing you briefly for another One Habit book that you wrote for the One Habit for Success, the Smart Femme Summit Special Edition. But today we're going to be talking about the habit that you wrote about in the One Habit for Women Action Takers. And so first of all, congratulations. You're a best-selling author again. So congratulations on that. But let's dive in a little bit, talk about the habit that you have in Women Action Takers and the Unhabit. So your habit is to own your health. And what do you mean by own your health?
Well, I think that we've all become conditioned to look at, and I'm going to use an old phrase from a management class in my retail management days. We look at doctors as the who said of the greatest magnitude. They are the God of health. So no matter what they say to us, they are the who said of the greatest magnitude. And when I got sick and I was riddled with pain and I went to my conventional doctor, she ran tests over and over and over again and came back to me and said, "There's nothing wrong with you. I want you to take steroids, but then I want you to seek therapy." And I went, all right, why would I take a pharmaceutical if there's nothing wrong with me? Let's
Right.
start there. I said, and second, I don't need therapy. I can tell you I hurt. I know I hurt. So the own your own health is you know your body better than anybody.
Right.
So no matter what, now we need our doctors. I'm not saying that we don't, but they don't know you like you do.
Right.
So I was lucky. I had a 20-year business. I turned it over to my staff. They'd been with me for a long time. And then I dug in and started researching. And I discovered the functional medical community, which is different than the conventional medical community. My doctor went to Yale. She's a full MD, but functional doctors almost all got sick themselves and couldn't help themselves. So they went on to get additional training in functional medicine. And the big difference is a conventional doctor, first of all, probably gives you 6 minutes in an appointment, whereas a functional doctor, I spend 40 minutes with my doctor every time I go in. But a conventional doctor is looking for your first complaint, and then they're trained to match a pill.
Mm.
So they listen for it, they match the pill. The biggest source of information from them, for them, is from their pharmaceutical rep. That is not true with a functional doctor. A functional doctor looks at the body in its whole. So they don't care what it's called. A lot of people are trying to figure out, what do I have? What do I have? They don't care.
Right.
They
Right.
want to find what doesn't function correctly and optimally in your body. And so my functional doctor ran totally different tests on my body. And like, I'll give just one quick example. Conventional doctor ran a allergy test. Only thing I was allergic to was the tape that held it on my back. Functional doctor ran a sensitivity test. I had 18 of them. And by getting rid of those in my diet was my first giant step
Wow.
back to less pain. So
I did
everything
not
is different.
know. Wow. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I did not know there was a such a thing as a functional doctor. I
Yeah. And the probably the most famous functional doctor is a gentleman named Dr. Mark Hyman. And he says that, and it's going to sound weird, he wishes every doctor would get sick because it opened up his eyes totally to
right.
how to help his patients better. And that's why he went back to get the additional training. And he's the most outspoken of all the functional doctors.
Okay.
But my doctor will not start with a pharmaceutical. She starts with a holistic possibility first. So when I got to her, my cortisol was so low, I was borderline Addison's disease. I had horrible chronic fatigue. I could almost not get out of bed in the morning. And so there are pharmaceutical things you can take for that. The first thing you have to do is learn to control your stress. So I have done that. I have a series of maybe 20, 25 exercises I choose from to break up my day so that my stress, which we all have, never
Right.
becomes toxic or chronic. So I do these little exercises through the day. But trying to think of where I was even going with all of this. But they have a whole different, she gave me an Ayurvedic remedy. I take Rhodelia drops every morning, and that will fill up my cortisol again until it goes back to normal levels. So if I wake up and I'm a little tired in the morning, I immediately know I need to restart my Rhodelia oil, my Rhodelia drops. They're flower drops. It's not a pharmaceutical. There is no downside to me taking them. And so we never had to go to the pharmaceutical to get my cortisol to rebuild itself. And I was helping obviously by learning all these little stress exercises. So my cortisol level is nice and even and under control now. I used to think stress was good for me.
Mm,
People talked to me for a long time that stress built up in the body, and I kept saying, nah, it gets me to get more done. Well, it's a mechanism from our paleo days so that
right.
it would make us get not eaten by the tiger, and that tiger almost caught and ate me. So it was self-defense to learn how to take care of my stress levels. And this is something that I think is so important. I have a chapter about it in both of my books, and I just put out a little stress book, because if you own your own health, once you find solutions, it's much easier to get them into play.
Right.
And no doctor had to tell me that that was important. I did my own research, and I knew how important controlling my stress was.
Well, I am, first of all, proud of you that you recognize a path that you didn't want to follow, and then you stood up for yourself and took the time and the energy and the research to find the path that does work for you. And I would second what you say, that regular medical doctors are important, but like I said, I didn't know anything about functional doctors. I think I'd heard the term functional medicine, but didn't really pay any attention to what that meant. I'm going to do my own research now that you've mentioned it.
And you can actually find a functional doctor by going to ifm.org
Okay.
and putting in your zip code, and they will all pop up. They're not all full MDs. Some of them are NDs. Some of them are nurse practitioners. But
Okay.
any of them that have been trained in functional medicine have the same approach, where they want to look at the body as a whole, and they want the whole thing to function correctly.
That
And
is great.
there's an incredible book called Accidentally Overweight by Dr. Libby Weaver, who talks about, you'd think it's only about weight loss, but it's really not. It's about how every organ system has to work optimally, or the next organ system
Mm,
cannot in your body. So if your liver isn't doing right, you've got to fix your liver before you can get your pancreas operating correctly. And she goes organ system by organ system in the book, and talks about how the pieces need what they need to be optimal, and then how the pieces fit together. It
okay.
was eye-opening.
It sounds eye-opening. I'm going to put that on my to read list. And so that actually, I think, helps roll us over into your Unhabit, which is about sad,
Right. Well, one of the
which is
things I
really
changed
sad if
was
you
how I
think about
eat.
it.
I
Yes.
eat organic. I do not eat processed food. I do not eat fast food, because all of those things made me feel yuck. So my unhabit is to stop eating the sad, because it is one sad diet. You're not getting, if you don't know what the ingredient is on that box, your body doesn't know what it is either.
Take a step back a second, Cheryl, and explain what sad is.
SAD is the American Standard Diet. And it's the reason that we're 37th in the world in health. It's the reason that 53% of our children have a chronic illness, because we're not feeding our bodies or our families real food. We're feeding them and our cells synthetic ingredients, and you have no building blocks to rebuild with that your body can utilize. And so I pulled out my list of how fast does your body replace cells, because they
Right.
all have a shelf list. Your gut, which is one of the most important areas of your body for health, it's where serotonin is made for depression. It's where most chronic illness begins. The wall of your gut replenishes itself every 6 days. But if you only are feeding it synthetic ingredients, it reaches a point where it can't possibly keep up. And when
Right.
it starts to pull new building supplies, there's nothing there for it to pull from.
Mm.
So it's just like a real computer, garbage in, garbage out. You have to eat nutrients so that your body can replace your brain cells and replace your blood cells, which replace themselves every 3 months, which is why if you have diabetes and you take your test, they're looking at cells that are new, cells that are in the middle, and that cells that are on their way out to figure out how healthy are you and what's your sugar level, because it's a 3-month shelf life. Um, all of it's important, but you gotta, and the body wants to heal. I thought that was
Right.
fascinating,
Right.
but it can't heal if you don't give it things to heal with. So the SAD has got to go. And if you're a mom or a dad, stop feeding it to your children, because we don't need our children to have chronic illness. It's also giving them ADHD. It's impacting how they learn. It's impacting so many of our children are obese or have diabetes or have a chronic illness. And it all starts with what we put in our bodies, and it needs to be real live nutrients. And my whole phrase is eat the rainbow, because each color has a gift, but they get together and they party in a synergy that creates health in your body. So you want to eat from a farm as close to you as possible so that those nutrients are new and fresh and wonderful. And you want to eat the whole rainbow at least as often as possible, hopefully every day.
I
So I started the morning eating vegetables. I eat them all day long. When I get home from the grocery store, I clean them, I put them eye level, and then if I want to roast vegetables, I just cut them up. If I want to have them on a snack with some hummus, I just grab a handful. They're always there, they're always ready. They have replaced all of that other icky food that doesn't give my body anything to function on.
and that's such a good point. And you mentioned this earlier, is feeding your body to help your body not only repair itself, because the body is created to repair itself,
It is.
but also to feel good. And that when you eat well, eat healthy, you make good choices, you feel better, and it gives your body a chance to do what it's supposed to do.
If you will try it for only 90 days, you won't believe the difference in terms of how you feel. You'll have better acuity. You will not have the brain fog and all of that stuff that you wake up with in the morning. You'll have more energy. I can almost feel the nutrients going through my body now, and I'm not willing to give that up. My second book is about how do I do this 24/7, because my friends do not eat like I do, but I'm not going to shift from this because I feel
Right.
it immediately. So I had to figure out, how was I going to go out to restaurants? How was I going to go to people's homes? How was I going to travel and not stop eating highly nutritious food? And so I put all the tips into a book, because if you have any kind of chronic illness, and that's several 100 million of us, then this book gives you all the tips that once you start feeling good, you staying good. Because it took me 5 years to eliminate toxins in my life and to eat real food to come back to being completely pain-free. So it's worth it to
Wow.
give up the sad, and it would be worth it to your children and your family to give up the sad. So all the way around, I mean, I will always have autoimmune disease, but to have no pain is huge, and I'm not giving it up.
That's great. And so this habit, or the habit and the unhabit, are in the book, The Women Action Takers. And my recollection is that you wrote about health also in One Habit for Success, right? And then
Um,
you've mentioned that you have a couple of books. Why don't you tell us about a little more about the books, the titles, and then we'll put the information in the comments so that people can get access to what you're talking about in more detail.
My first book is this, has fun little characters on it because it's about eliminating all the toxins in your life. And you won't believe it, but almost everything in my life was toxic. There's a giant database in the sky by EWG, the Environmental Working Group, and I looked up absolutely everything in my life and found a low toxin replacement, which was also a giant step to me coming back to health. So that's the first book. And the little characters are because someone said to me, toxins are boring. They might be boring, but they're making us sick, and that's what's wrong with our healthcare system. It can't keep up with what we're putting into our bodies.
Wow.
So that's the first book. The second book just came out, and it's called Feeling Good, Living in Community and Everyday Life, which gives all my tips on how do I eat out at a restaurant? How do I go to somebody's house for dinner? I don't dictate to anybody. I only expect that I'm going to eat this way, but I have found ways around all of that. Like my family, I gave them all a paleo cookbook, and they love me. So when I'm going to their house for dinner, they'll cook from that. How do I travel? We have a little refrigerator we bought from Amazon that's in the car, and we go back and forth from LA to Sedona all the time. And so we take all our own food. We've been to Europe twice. It's doable, but I tell you how I figured out how to do it. And then I talk about sides, which by nature means they kill something. You don't want to be putting pesticides or killing
Right.
bugs or eating them on your food because they're sprayed amply over all of your food if you're not eating organic. There's a whole section on raising healthy children, and then there's a whole section on creating a healthy, low toxin environment for your pets. So those are my two big books. Then I put out a little victory guide where you write down what your victories are each day.
I think we lost you, Cheryl. I think you lost.
Because yourself.
You froze a little bit. You were
Okay.
talking about the stress book.
The stress book is all my little exercises that I pick from through the day, and I made it little so it'll sit on your desk. The idea is they don't take more than 3 minutes, any of them. Only one of them takes equipment. You can pick it up, you can choose one, you can let the steam off your stress, and then go back to work, and it will significantly improve your productivity because you're putting blood throughout your body. So they're important exercises to learn, and they don't take any time, and they'll make you healthy. So all the way around, it's a good thing to know. And then the last one is my daily victory journal and gratitude guide. I have practiced gratitude for many years, but I
Yes.
found that somebody would ask me, what have I accomplished? And I couldn't ever remember because I wasn't giving myself credit. So this is my little record it, remember it, and pat myself on the back because there are little victories that we have every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great library that in resources that you've created for your readers. And I appreciate you sharing those. Do you have any final words you'd like to share?
Just know that you are responsible for you. And if you're in the age of the internet, it may not be easy to find answers, but they're out there. So dig in, own it yourself. Don't let anybody tell you you're going to have to live a life of pain and pills, because you don't. You can find solutions, or you can hire a health coach who will find out what your goals are and then help you reach them, because they've been trained on how to help you find your goals. So it's, if you own it, then you'll find the right solutions, because whatever you're dealing with today is not how your story has to end. And that's my story.
That's awesome. And you're absolutely right. It starts with taking control and ownership of your health. It's your body, your life. We only get one. We really have to take the best care that we absolutely can with that. So Cheryl, thank you so much for stopping by Habit Talks and sharing with us from the One Habit for Women Action Takers and a little bit more about some of the work that you do around health. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Whitney.
All right. Take care.